Hey, thank you for joining me for this market update video. My name is Tyler Stanley. I'm a realtor with Compass Real Estate here in Atlanta, Georgia. Right now I'm at the office in Buckhead. You can see Peachtree Road right here behind me. I wanted to take this opportunity and just go over everything that happened in the market last year in 2024, and then what that says about where we are now in 2025 and what we can expect moving forward. A few things that I'm going to go into are the average sale price, where it was last year, what we're looking at right now, closed sales for last year, and specifically the end of last year, pending sales, because pending sales from the end of last year tells us what we're looking at going into this year and where we are right now. Percent of list price, so if you're looking to buy or looking to sell, kind of what the average on percentage of list price is. Days on market, what's the average days on market? What were the average days on market before and what we're looking at the end of 2024? And months of supply. So where are we with supply? Because supply, which we measure in months, is a really big indicator of how strong the market is, whether or not we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. More supply means less demand. More supply means you've got, buyers have a lot more options and sellers have a lot more listings to compete with. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to speed through this as quickly as possible and not make it too painful for everybody. I know looking at charts and figures can get really boring really quickly, but I want to hit the high points. So what you see on the screen right now, that chart is from the FMLS. That's our first multiple listing service here in the Atlanta metro area. These are the charts that I typically use to get all of the information about where the market is right now, homes that have sold, what's the average list price, all of the things that I talked about and I want to talk about in this video. Average sale price in the Atlanta market in December of 24 was $491,000. It took a dip from June, which in the summer, sale prices are always higher. Typically in the winter months, they do drop down. You can even see that in this chart, how it goes up and down, these peaks and valleys, summertime into wintertime. If we look at December of 23, we can see that average sale price over a year ago, was at $468,000. So over that 12-month span, we went from $468,000 to $491,000 December to December. So that's a pretty good increase. Okay, so the next thing to look at is going to be closed sales. So this, once again, I want to mention this too. This chart goes 3 years back, so we go all the way back to January of 21. Okay, so the next thing that we're looking at is closed sales. Closed sales, obviously, a really important number. How many people are actually buying houses? How many people are actually closing on houses? In December, there were 5,700 homes that were sold. That's down from May, was actually the high point, was closed deals. That was 7,400. So we went from 7,472 to, in December, we went to 5,740. However, once again, we go back to December of 23, and December of 23, we had 5,200. So we actually had more homes sell and close in December of 24, last month, than we did the year prior. That's a really good sign. It's a really good sign that more people actually bought homes this past December than did last December. And I've got kind of an idea of why that might be, but I'll talk about that in just a little bit. The next number to look at is going to be pending sales. The reason why we're looking at pending sales is how many homes went under contract in December that are going to be closing now in January or in February. So that number, pending sales, took a big dip. You see, from October down to December, we took a big dip. 3,952 homes went under contract in December, right? So that kind of gives us an idea of, all right, we're not going to have as many closings in January as we did in December. Now let's go back and look at December of 23. So back in December of 23, we had slightly more closings than in last year than we did in December 24. So we had about 100, because there were 4,099 in December of 23, up to 3,952 in December of 24. So we had about, let's say 1,000 100. We had about 100 more closings in 23 than we did in 24, meaning there's going to be about 100. It's not, I mean, it's such a small number that over the grand scheme, it's not going to make that much of a difference. The next thing we're going to look at here is months of supply. How many homes are on the market? Now, I mentioned that there are some indicators that show that demand could be going back up. And this is one of those indicators, okay? Right here, months of supply went down, meaning less supply, more demand, right? We've got less homes on the market for buyers to compete for and less listings that sellers have to compete against. So from October, we were at 4 months. We were sort of steadily over 24 going up in supply. And in October, we started dropping down. And by the end of December, we had 3.4 months of supply. If you don't know what that means as far as months of supply, the way that we measure how many homes are on the market is by months, meaning this is how many months it should take to sell every home on the market if no other homes hit the market. And to put that into perspective for you, 3.4 months of inventory is still well into a buyer's market. We don't hit a seller's market until we get around 6.5, 7 months of supply. That's when we get into kind of a seller's market. So you can see that we've been steadily kind of climbing out of this trough. Back here in 2021, we were at a month of supply, probably less than that actually, but a month of supply. We've been steadily climbing back out. Where we are here at 3.4 months of supply is actually closer to where we were before, look at this, before the pandemic started, right? That's about where we were, and that was the top of it. So 2019, 3.4 months of inventory. Back in that time, in 2019, that was a very strong market. It was really good for buyers and sellers. You'd get some multiple offers, but homes were selling at or around list price. Some were going over. Really good, strong real estate market. So we're right now, based on these numbers, we're at about that right now. Another indicator of how strong the market is and how many buyers are out in the market is this figure, shows to pending. That means how many people went to see a property before it went under contract. Now, you could take this figure a couple ways. You know, some people think, oh, well, why did it take so many showings to get that under contract? However, the way that you really should look at it is the other way, which is if there are 12 showings before it goes under contract, that means if that's the average, that means that home is getting more showings, and that's the potential to get more offers. Then you get into potentially a multiple offer situation. To put that into perspective too, if we go back to 21, which everyone would say that 2021 was, you know, the height of the market. Back then we were looking at 20 showings, and even in 22. So actually in 22, well, it's about the same actually. It's 0.8 difference. But 2021, we had 20 showings per listing before they went under contract. This number shows, this chart shows that number, showings to pending, started climbing again in September and went up to 12 by December. And now we're going to look at percent of list price, right? So what are homes selling for? The average home, what are they selling for percentage of list price? At the end of December, we ended at 98%. That's on average. That's every home that's on the market, right? So the fixer-upper that needs a lot of work done to it, all the way up to the brand new, new construction home that has all the bells and whistles. 98% was the average. So that also did take a dip. So we went in May of last year, we were at 99% down to 98. So it dropped by 1%. So right now in the market, there is a chance if you're a buyer, you could get out there and find a home that you're not going to have to pay list price for, which for us here in the Atlanta market is a big change. If you look back once again at previous markets, back in May of 22, buyers could expect to pay on average about 103% of list price, about 3% over list price. So big change right now, and we'll see where that goes. So I mentioned a minute ago that closed sales were actually higher in December of 2024 than they were in December of 2023, meaning more homes sold last year than they did the previous year in 2023. And I mentioned that I had kind of an idea of why that might be. My assumption is that in 23, people who had locked into lower interest rates, and this is still the case right now, but people who locked into lower interest rates were waiting it out before selling and buying, even if they needed to sell. And they needed to buy because they'd outgrown their home, or they needed to move to a different location for a school district. They were waiting it out as long as they could, hoping that interest rates would drop down to make it worth it for them to get out of that 2 or 3% interest rate. My assumption is that by December of 24, a lot of those people that were waiting it out just couldn't wait any longer. They went ahead and sold. They took the increase in interest rate to buy a new house because they just had to get into a new home. They had to get into, a different area closer to work, maybe into a different school district, whatever it is. They waited it out as long as they could. Now, what we heard at the end of 2023 was that the Fed was going to drop interest rates pretty aggressively through 2024. That didn't happen quite as aggressively as we thought. So currently, interest rates are still sitting right around 7%. The Fed is indicating now that in 2025, they aren't going to be as aggressive with dropping interest rates. So what that tells homeowners, people that need to sell and buy something else, and when I say need, I mean, the kids have moved out, they're downsizing, or they've outgrown their home, or they need to move closer to work, or they're being relocated, those kind of people, that kind of need. That tells me that those people who are locked into those lower interest rates, they're hearing this news about, hey, the rates are not changing much anytime soon. Those people are probably going to go ahead and make that move this year if they need to move, because the indication is they're not going to be able to see an interest rate anywhere near that one that they locked into in 2020, 2021, and 2022. As far as a price correction goes, I think we have seen a price correction. Now, it may not be the kind of price correction that people think of from like 2008 to 2012, where everybody was underwater and the prices went well below what people paid for. But if you think about the fact that everybody was buying homes at 3 to 5% over list price 2 to 3 years ago, and now the average is 98% of list price, which could change. That in itself is a price correction. That is switch to a little bit more of an advantage for a buyer, and makes the sellers, when they put their home on the market, have to compete a little bit more. Okay, so I think that's just about it. We talked about average price, we talked about closed sales, pending sales, months of supply, percent of list price. What it kind of looks like to me is the market is sort of going back to normal, and by normal I mean what we were looking at in 2019. Now, all kinds of things. I'm a real estate agent. I deal in the real estate market. There are all kinds of economic factors that can change all of this. It can affect the real estate market. But as far as our market here in Atlanta right now, we're still in a very strong market. If you would like to see these charts specifically on your neighborhood or your area, your zip code, whatever it is, I can enter these in here, and we can look specifically at your area and see what the average price, what the days on market, all that stuff is for your specific area. So if you're interested in that and you'd like me to send that information to you, shoot me an email. I'll put my contact information below. I'd love to provide that to you. Thank you for sticking with me. I know this stuff is it's a little bit dry, but I'd love to answer any of your questions. If you have them, send them to me. Talk to you soon.